So how is it possible to not just survive, but to actually thrive in one of the most extreme environments on Earth? I mean, we're talking about the Arctic, a vast, frozen landscape where temperatures just plummet and resources are unbelievably scarce. Okay, let's dive into this absolute masterclass in human ingenuity. To really get this, let's just put ourselves there for a second. Picture it. It is colder than you can possibly imagine. And your food isn't cooked. It's raw, it's frozen, and it's absolutely vital for your survival. Now, this isn't some hypothetical scenario. For the traditional Inuit, this was just another day at the office. So in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly how they pulled it off. We'll start with who the Inuit people are. Then we'll check out their unique pantry, marvel at the incredible engineering of the igloo, look at their amazing survival gear, and finally wrap up with the role of community and the challenges of the modern world. All right, so first up, who are we talking about here? The people of the Arctic have this incredibly rich history, but there's a really common and important misunderstanding about their name that we need to clear up right off the bat. You've probably heard the term Eskimo, right? Well, that's actually an outdated name that was given to them by outsiders, and it basically means eaters of raw meat. The people themselves, they prefer the term Inuit, which simply and powerfully translates to the people. So for the rest of our journey here, we're going to be using Inuit, because it's the right way to show respect for their culture. Their ancestral story is just epic. It starts thousands and thousands of years ago. DNA actually tells us their roots trace back to Northeast Asia. From there, their ancestors made this unbelievable trek across the Bering Strait land bridge into what we now call Alaska. And that massive migration eventually gave rise to the Thule people, who are the direct ancestors of the modern Inuit we're talking about today. Okay, now for what is maybe the most fundamental challenge in the Arctic, finding food. With no farms and very, very little to forage, the Inuit became absolute masters of hunting and gathering, developing some seriously ingenious ways to stock their one-of-a-kind pantry. Survival was all about the seasons. In the summer, the focus was on fishing for Arctic char and salmon, and they'd often use these ancient stone weirs, which are basically low walls they'd build in rivers to trap the fish. But in winter, the hunt shifted to the sea ice and the seal. The seal became the absolute cornerstone of their entire existence. It was like their supermarket and their hardware store all rolled into one. It gave them food, of course, but also oil for their lamps for light and heat and warm, waterproof skins for clothing. And this brings us to a really critical question. We all know you need fruits and veggies for vitamin C. Without it, you get scurvy, and that's fatal. So in a land of just ice and snow, how on earth did the Inuit solve this huge nutritional puzzle? The answer is just brilliant, and it's right there in their diet. They figured out that certain animal parts, especially the organs, are packed with vitamin C. We're talking about things like seal liver and whale skin, which is known as muck duck. But here's the kicker. Heat destroys vitamin C. So the fact that they ate a lot of their meat raw wasn't just some random tradition. It was a straight-up biomedical necessity. And when it comes to unique foods, wow, it does not get more extreme than kiviak. To preserve food for that long, brutal winter, they would stuff hundreds of small seabirds, feathers, beaks, the whole shebang, inside a seal skin, sew it up tight, and then bury it to ferment for months. The result is this incredibly potent, nutrient-dense food that could keep them alive when literally nothing else was available. Okay, so you've got food sorted. What about shelter? Well, when you think of the Arctic, you probably picture the igloo. But this is so much more than a simple snow hut. This thing is a masterpiece of physics and engineering. It's a warm, stable home built from the only material they had around, frozen water. I mean, really think about that for a second. How do you take something as cold and fragile as snow and turn it into a shelter that can literally keep you alive in the middle of a blizzard? The solution is just pure genius. See, building one follows this super precise method. First, you have to find just the right kind of snow. It's got to be dense and compact, not too fluffy, not too icy. Then, using a special knife, often made from a walrus tusk, you cut these perfect, uniform blocks. But here's the real magic. They don't just stack them. They build in a continuous rising spiral. It's this incredible work of architectural precision where each block leans on the one before it, all the way until that final fitted keystone block goes into the top, locking the entire dome into a perfect self-supporting structure. Amazing. The science behind it is what's truly mind-blowing. As you can see, every single feature has a specific job. The dome shape, that's for strength. The compacted snow, it's a fantastic insulator. That sunken entrance tunnel, that's a cold trap. It keeps the heavy, cold air out. And the raised sleeping platform means everybody's up in the warmest layer of air. The result? With just body heat and a small lamp, the inside can be over 50 degrees Celsius, that's 90 degrees Fahrenheit, warmer than the brutal cold outside. So you've got food, you've got shelter. What's next? Clothing. And Inuit clothing wasn't just warm, it was this highly advanced, multi-layered system that was, in so many ways, the world's first true performance gear. Every single piece was perfectly designed using the best materials nature had to offer. The parka, often made from caribou hide, was the windproof outer shell. An inner layer of caribou fur trapped body heat like nothing else. Their boots, called kamek, were made from sealskin for its incredible waterproof qualities. They even made rain gear out of seal intestines. A woman's skill with a needle and thread wasn't just a craft, it was a life-saving technology for her entire family. And get this. This just shows their deep, intuitive understanding of physics. The fur ruff around the hood, usually made of wolf fur, wasn't just for decoration. As wind hits that fur, it creates these tiny little vortices that actually disrupt and slow down the airflow. This creates a pocket of calm, warmer air right in front of your face, protecting it from frostbite. This is literally the ancestor of the modern parka you see today.
And here's another incredible piece of tech: snow goggles. In the Arctic, the sun's glare reflecting off all that snow is so intense it can cause something called snow blindness, which can be temporary or even permanent. To solve this, the Inuit carved goggles out of antler or bone with just a tiny slit to see through. This super simple design cuts the amount of light way down, protecting their vision while still letting them see what they're doing.
Okay, finally, none of this, the hunting, the building, the surviving, none of it would be possible without a super strong social fabric. But that traditional world has collided with some profound changes, raising all new questions about what it means to be Inuit today. You see, in an environment this harsh, one person just can't make it alone. The entire society was built on a foundation of cooperation and sharing. If one hunter had a successful day, the whole community ate. This wasn't just about being nice, it was a fundamental, non-negotiable survival mechanism. Now this brings us to a practice that's been widely misunderstood. This so-called spouse exchange, it was not a casual thing or some form of hospitality. It was an exceptionally rare and frankly desperate survival pact. It was used to forge unbreakable bonds and alliances between families when they were facing true life-or-death situations. It was all about creating a web of mutual obligation in the most extreme circumstances you can imagine. And those circumstances were absolutely brutal. Before there was widespread contact with modern society and its medicine, the reality of this life was just stark. The average life expectancy for the Inuit was just 29 years old. 29! Today, with access to modern healthcare and amenities and settled communities, that number has jumped dramatically to around 72 years. That single statistic right there shows you the profound, life-altering impact the modern world has had. And all this leaves us with a final, really thought-provoking question. As the ice melts and traditional ways of life get harder and harder to maintain, the Inuit are navigating a world their ancestors could have never, ever imagined. They're blending ancient knowledge with modern tools. They're fighting to preserve their language and their culture while also embracing new opportunities. So as their world transforms, the question of what it means to be Inuit today is more important and more complex than ever before.